I was seeing a psychologist at the time, and he was just like, well, when you're doing dishes, because I would always think like all these negative thoughts. And he's like, when you're doing dishes, just start thinking positive thoughts. And I was like, so I tried that. And for the life of me, it would not land. And logically, yes, that's brilliant. But I couldn't, it didn't feel that good. I actually kind of felt worse, which is interesting because that was actually such a huge leap.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and are not necessarily those of Meet Your Mental Helper Podcast LLC or its affiliates. We are not responsible for actions taken based on this content.
Hi, I'm James Weisbecker. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Ohio, Texas, Virginia, and Delaware. I started the Meet Your Mental Helper podcast because I found that there were a lot of podcasts with people who are either celebrities or talking about knowledge they've heard from celebrities. When I went to trainings, and I still go to trainings, and met fellow colleagues, I realized that the everyday therapists, counselors, coaches, people that really put in the work and effort to learn and to share that knowledge, that healing knowledge with clients, knew so much more. And I thought it's a shame they don't have a voice. It's a shame that people can't learn about who's actually in their community making a difference. And that's why I started the Meet Your Mental Helper podcast. Let's meet today's guest on Meet Your Mental Helper.
And welcome to Meet Your Mental Helper. Today's guest is Nicole Hope Sylvester, founder of Stress Fluent, creator of behavior intelligence, and author of Home is Power. Nicole helps people understand how stress influences their thoughts, emotions, health, and behavior. Today we're talking about overthinking, why it may be a stress response rather than a personality trait, how it affects our decisions, relationships, and what we can do to quiet the mental chatter and respond with greater calm and clarity. Nicole, welcome to Meet Your Mental Helper.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you on. Let's just start with overthinking. That, I see that a lot. Guilty, do it myself. When someone says I'm an overthinker, what actually may be happening? Could you say?
I would offer that overthinking is symptomatic of a body that feels a lot of stress inside of it. And we can use whatever term we want for what stress is, but I feel like for the common person these days, that's the best way to explain it. But when the body or the nervous system feels unsafe, then it really does create the mind chatter and a lot of it, which is the overthinking.
Gotcha. So it starts somatically is what I'm hearing. And how do we tune into that?
Well, that's an interesting space. I was actually at an engagement yesterday, and some people were actually talking about how they don't really feel their body. And I think that is a very common trait from a lot of people these days. Makes perfect sense. And especially with the growing amount of technology use, we are becoming more and more disconnected. And I say all of this just with general witnessing, observation, no judgment, because I don't want anybody freaking out. It's okay. And it is also real truth. And we're almost training our bodies to not pay attention. We're training our mind, if you will, to not pay attention, because a lot of people have uncomfortable bodies. And that discomfort is the thing I'm actually talking about. Is that stress, or is that overwhelm, or burnout, or I'm trying to think of all the words that people use, anxiety. And that is this, my lens on it is that is this amazing information the body's trying to share with us. And when we can start paying attention to it, even in just acknowledging that it's there, I feel uncomfortable in my body, we actually get a lot more control over what's going to happen next, like with our mind or with our behavior. So that's the The goal is
Yeah.
to start retraining people to just notice first.
Mhm. When someone's uncomfortable in their body, what would be like? I know everybody's different, but what would be some common examples? Um, and I know what you're talking. In my practice, I run into a lot of people that sometimes can't feel things, or just, uh, we'll do a body scan or something. Well, I don't know. I guess it's in my head or something like that. But what are some common things that show up in them?
Oh, that's a great question. So, the interesting thing that I really want people to take away from this discussion is that stress can show up in so many different ways. And again, stress, the nervous system not feeling safe, too much going on, or too much from our past. So, those kind of driving forces. And I think we're just not told really how to see the wide range of ways it can show up. For me, when I really was at my highest overwhelm, burnout, breakdown, if you will, I was able to literally think myself into full body rashes. So you can go from rashes to, heartburn to tension in the jaw or the shoulders. It can go
Hmm.
into IBS. It can go into I couldn't swallow. So there's another fun side one, pain in the pelvis. I mean, really, it can, this is not to dissuade people from actually seeing their doctor about having something
Right.
really wrong. However, the more research that I've done on this stress reaction is that it really affects every single piece of our body, and it should, because it's the body taking in data about its external world, which is why it would, and it's trying to get us prepared. Stress is trying to prepare the physical body for battle
Yeah.
or running. And so the way I like to think about it, if we think about it in the most basic way, what would the body need to do to protect itself? And it would need a lot of energy and muscle tenseness preparation for fighting.
Hmm.
So shoulders, arms, even into the hands, it would need a lot of energy in the hips and legs for running. So
Yeah.
we imagine all of the energy going to places that we would use to protect ourselves. And where would it not need energy? The brain. So people who have trouble focusing or foggy brains, right? Could be that they're in a consistent or chronic stress state. We don't need to use our stomach and digestive tract for fighting. So energy gets pulled from there. So now the stomach's not working properly. Our immune system, things like that. So that's really why it takes such a huge range of ways. But generally, the ones people feel, right? Tightness in the chest, an elevated heart rate, and tension in the physical body is such a really big key for first
Yeah.
noticing.
In other words, nothing's off limits.
Nothing's off limits, right? I mean, the body is its all,
Yeah.
like this intermingled network, and everything is talking in a way through nerves
Hmm.
and synapses to everything. So the whole body, in its attempt to always stay alive, is always talking to all of its
Right.
parts to try to make it protected and safe and all of that.
Hmm. And I muscle tension is a big one too. I know a lot of people clench their jaws. I notice if I got a deadline, I'm probably going to be clenching my jaw sometimes, so I just undo it. But um, sometimes I catch myself sucking my stomach, and
Hmm.
I look at it, but I don't. It's not comfortable, so I'll just undo it. So I think muscle groups, neck, shoulders, those are big ones too, don't you think?
And that's why I think so many people have chronic migraines and things like that. It's because
Good point.
the key piece of all of this is to recognize that the longer that the body has stayed in this stress state, this fear state or
Hmm.
protection state, the more adapted it has come to just staying in that position. And
Yeah.
so when it's happened for a long time, people are like, oh, well, I'm not stressed right now. And this is what happens with even my clients who are coming to me for stress. They're like, yeah, but I'm not stressed right now, so I should feel better. And I'm like, no, 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 because your body has decided that it's safer to stay tense and ready to go at any moment because of its history than to wax and wane. And the body was truly designed in its evolutionary original plan to come up and feel activated and take action and then come back down and relax and to do all of its normal processing and cellular development, etc. And then come up and take action and then come down. And most people live on the up right now.
Yeah. No, agree with that. There's so many stressors, right? Am I going to get laid off? Am I going is there a new health scare? Is there, the world's on fire? Whatever it is. And then I think, algorithms from all kinds of social media exacerbate that problem too. They keep feeding you that stimulus over and over and over again, which maybe
Yes.
is another discussion, but
Well, the interesting thing, and and I won't veer off too far, but I also want to share this. And when I had really severe, along with my capacity and my real good strength to give myself rashes and not be able to do this or that or swallow, it was rough. I was very tired, all the
Mhm.
things. I was also really depressed, which is common, right? In this fluctuation when the body's just like, we don't know what
Yeah.
we're done talking to you. We're just going to make you go to bed till you figure this out, essentially.
Mhm.
um, and I was seeing a psychologist at the time, and he was just like, well, when you're doing dishes, because I would always think like all these negative thoughts. And he's like, when you're doing dishes, just start thinking positive thoughts. And I was
Mhm.
like, so I tried that. And for the life of me, it would not land. And logically, yes, that's brilliant. But I couldn't, it didn't feel that good. I actually kind of felt worse, which is interesting because that was actually such a huge leap. And when I started doing the research on that, there's some that speak to the fact that the body would actually like a given dopamine hit and reward for a thought. And so if thoughts that are negative can land for you better, then your body actually rewards you for those. So
Interesting.
that's the tricky part of this, is that when we're trying to mindset our way out of these tricky life issues, anxiety,
Mhm.
overwhelm, depression, things like that. Not to say that they are not clinical things. However, we need to also be addressing what the body is thinking about it, what the nervous system, the adrenals, all of that, what role they're playing, and look at the whole body, because that's what got me out of depression. And I never took
Mhm.
drugs or anything. I just figured out how to downregulate my nervous system again and again and again and again. And that paired with some subconscious belief work is really what got me back into joy. Daily
How
joy.
interesting. Yeah. So stress, so many people, you mentioned it's not a personality trait. So many people say, I was a nervous kid. Now I'm a nervous adult. Everyone in my family's nervous. Everybody in my family's stressed. Um, so how do you convince somebody it's not a personality trait?
With this. If we come into this world surrounded by people around us who feel nervous, which means their
Mhm.
nervous systems feel nervous, our bodies will feel nervous out of default because they can feel their bodies. So that's part one, neuroception. And if we think about, I think I would offer that majority of our today's problems can be solved by just looking at what our body was designed to do, which was to live in hunter-gatherer society out in nature. So the more that we divert from that path of living, right? So if I'm living in tribe, I'm supposed to learn how to feel, et cetera. Everyone's in that tribe, my body is going to be trained to feel that, because someone next to me feels fear, maybe they know that there's a lion and I need to know that I don't know why we're in the savannah right now, but
Great point.
right? That I need to also know that there's a lion. So my body's going to be trained to read their signals from the nervous system all the way to facial expression, behaviors, all that. That's why when someone throws up, we feel so likely to throw up, because hunter-gatherers, we would have eaten the same food. And if you're throwing up, I probably should throw up because you probably ate something bad, which means I ate something bad. So we
Don't
should
eat the berry.
yeah, exactly. We should all throw out the berries. I mean, not to talk about
Right.
that topic too much, but so
Yeah.
if I get born into a family that has this underlying nervousness or worry or fear, my body's going to pick up on it. Now add their words. So when we're in that really, I mean, a lot of people are aware of that 0 to 7 time frame, and that people talk about, but really we're just intaking, coding our truths, coding what it is to be a human in that time frame. So if I'm surrounded by a bunch of people who are always talking about how important it is to be afraid, how worried we are about money, how worried we are about housing and food and the neighbors and others and etc., then in that time frame where my body is also feeling nervous, I'm just coding into my back of my mind that the world is a scary place. And now here I am as an adult, and my body's been trained like a muscle, essentially, like a habit, to assume that the world is a scary place. So now my thoughts are going to match my stress state, which is going to keep me thinking all the time and continuously in a stress state. So it's not about who I am. It's a nurture thing. Ultimately,
Yeah.
nature would generally dictate we would come out pretty chill.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, there are studies now that are fairly recent showing that a mother who is very stressed during pregnancy passes extra cortisol into the fetus, into that unborn human, and you come out going, and I was kind of a nervous kid. My mother, may she rest in peace, she had some miscarriages, and I was this one that lived, and I wondered, and she was very type A, so I don't know. It's always nice to blame moms for everything. But sometimes I wonder, did I get extra cortisol? Because I can remember my parents saying, you were a nervous kid, or something.
I would offer yes. And I think that's the beauty of the work that I'm trying to express to people, is just understanding what I recall to your human operating system, but that's not that. Just we all have this basic pattern of how our body functions, these kind of 4 pillars of our nervous system and our beliefs, that subconscious piece, and our conscious mind, which is only 5% in control, and then our output behaviors. And everyone has that system. It's, a combination is all different for all people, just like a thumbprint is unique to every individual. However, if we just kind of take away blame and take away finger pointing or this kind of thing, the human experience is to come in and have parents and learn their viewpoints, etc., of life. And then as we get into adulthood, start deciding, start having that personal empowerment of I don't have to be anxious all the time. I don't need that. So I definitely wholeheartedly admit that I'm sure I gave my second child lots of anxiety, because I had had a miscarriage in between, and I too was anxious. And at that time in my life, clearly I was an anxious little nugget. So, and but that's fine. I think that's the cool piece about this. If we empower people with this knowledge, especially early on, the more that we learn about who we are and how we function, most importantly. So maybe how we function first. We do get to decide who we are, and we get to empower ourselves to heal, because we know what's going on inside the body that we live in our entire lives. And so that's part of the value of this work, is the more that we educate people, then they know, hey, how I feel and what's going on inside me, it doesn't feel quite right, and I can adjust it. And when I have babies, I'll have more power to be able to offer them a different kind of life, and they'll have more power to understand what's happening inside themselves. I
So
feel like
true.
our bodies are like a black box, and I think it's weird, especially
Yeah.
now at this day and age with the amount of information we have access to, and very, very few people actually know how how their body functions, and I think that's weird.
Yeah, it's weird and sad. You know what I mean? It's weird and sad. They might go through life or have chronic illnesses that could have been prevented or eliminated. But I do that with clients too. I always tell them, yeah, you probably did get that from your dad. Yeah, you probably inherited that from your mom, but you're not doomed to you can do something about it. You
Yeah,
do inherit personality traits. You do inherit whatever, but you still have a choice in that. Now you have a choice. Yeah.
yeah. And I think
Uh,
that's what's cool about being a human. If we came in and we all remembered we were really awesome, we wouldn't really
yeah.
it wouldn't be as a dynamic world as we currently live in. So that's part
Yeah.
of the journey is the way I see it.
Let's compare two things we kind of touched on, overthinking, but how do you, how do you help somebody who's caught between problem solving, they're analyzing something, and they, or they're in that overthinking area and paralyzed? How do you, how do you kind of differentiate problem solving versus overthinking?
Ah, okay. Let me pause for a moment and really think about that.
So, I mean, one thing that comes to mind for me is overthinking becomes paralysis somewhat.
Analysis
Um,
paralysis, right? Yeah.
yeah, problem solving, everyone's different. Some people will spend a lot of time on it, but there might be that tipping point where it becomes overthinking, maybe, you know,
I would
not
offer
productive.
the this is where that somatic noticing of the body is a real key piece in it. And it really is personal, and it really is, this is why I talk about behavior intelligence. It's because I can start looking at my behaviors and start, I don't like the word analyzing, witnessing, observing is better, with curiosity, what's happening before that behavior comes out. And if I'm problem solving and it's taking me a really long time, I can look at that and say, well, why? And if I start looking at it, I say why, and I say because it's really important to me, and I felt like I needed to do some solid research, and now I've come up, my track record is that actually pays off for me, and et cetera, super. Then that's just an approach. When we're overthinking and we can never make a decision, when we're overthinking and our body starts growing a huge amount of stress, we start feeling that tightness or
Yeah.
urgency. Urgency is a great way to actually delineate the difference, because when I'm problem solving, I don't really have urgency. If I'm calm, that's why my book is called Calm is Power. Because if I need to make a decision, even when I'm doing the research for it, I feel pretty good about it. I know that if I do this and this, I'm going to get the right answer, and that's worked out really well for me. If I start feeling this sense of it has to get done and it has to be right and da 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 da,
Yeah.
that's going to be a different somatic experience. And now, based on my body language, body signals, I can
Hmm.
start getting curious. Seems like I'm not as, level-headed as I normally am. And the tricky piece with the overthinking that turns into, I call it rabbit holing. And the reason why is because when the body again thinks that it's in constant protection mode, then it's often really constantly threat detecting. And it's
Yeah.
less about problem solving, because the fun fact, as I'm sure you know, is right. For every time I'm coming up with a solution, my brain's also trying to predict what could go wrong with that solution when it's in the fear space. Not what could go right, but what could go wrong. So it's coming up with more problems to solve from that potential problem. And our brains are so powerful. You'll cycle and it'll cycle and cycle and cycle and keep re-upping that stress in the body, which puts more urgency and less capacity to focus. And now we're in a problem space.
Yeah. So I guess that would be venturing into the rumination part of things,
Yes.
maybe.
Yes. I would offer rumination is the body is too afraid to commit to any one solution because it can come up with a million reasons why it will go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so what's a good way to get through that? I can think of people making big decisions and like coming up with everything to go on versus it may exceed your expectations, which is the positive one, but not that easy. But, how do you, is it about tuning in this to the somatic part of things to maybe get out of the amygdala into the frontal lobe to the brain? Or,
Yes. So the point of my work is to keep reminding people that our first step always is to make sure our foundation, which is our nervous system and our physiology, is centered or grounded or calm, whatever word feels right. And then we try to problem solve. So, and it's just a habit. Again, all of this, our bodies like to be efficient, so they really create a lot of neural pathways to just try to efficiency its way through life.
yeah.
Right, 95% autopilot throughout the day. So the key is to retrain the body for calm, and then problem solving comes a lot faster. And then at the end of that, the thing is, the body will start feeling more calm about it and more confident about it and more this could work. That calm state offers an opening to possibility. A stress or fear state is a narrow-minded closing. And so it will only focus on the negative. Where our body is will determine how we can see the end result of that potential solution. And really, in a stress state, like a high-level stress state or a chronic stress state, it's near impossible for the brain to settle on something.
Oh, for sure.
So
Yeah.
it has to be the very first step for all people every single day of their lives, multiple times a day, is to downregulate the nervous system. Get my body calm, now I'll do the next step. Get my body calm, now I'll do the next step. That's efficiency, actually, because you'll do it faster,
Mhm.
better every time.
Yeah. So what are some things where do we start by noticing, um, our bodies? Like, somebody gets that one email, we need the TPS report by 2 o'clock and it's 1:30, right?
Uh-huh.
Uh, and now what would you recommend in that? And that might not be deep, something deep, but it could send them into that fight or freeze response, you know?
Well, when we're in a burnout space, where a lot of people live right now is in that high level overwhelm reactive mode, then it
Yeah,
doesn't take very much right? What is the kind of traditional thing? I spilled milk. Don't cry over spilled milk. And a lot of people cry
right.
over spilled milk these days. And that's just because their body's on maximum capacity and everything is a thing. And the don't sweat the small stuff is a lot harder to do when the nervous system's dysregulated. So
The
there's so
cliches
many,
just don't work.
yes, they're great, accurate terminologies that
Mhm.
apply when you are generally in a lower state of stress or overwhelm. Overwhelm, you're done. Milk, cry, anything, cry or
Yeah.
yell or whatever the reaction is. So the key is, again, noticing your response. So noticing the behavior, noticing the
Hmm.
body a little bit. I felt that. Start training our first thought to be, how did I just react to that? Ooh, I feel for lack of better words.
Yeah.
I got that email. I feel immediate tension in my chest or my stomach, right? Oh, first thing I need to do, calm my body. I take a breath. I get up and move. There's a million tools and techniques to utilize. And the tricky part is, yes, I do want to be clear, including actually breathing techniques, aside from one big breath, if I'm pretty okay, I can take one big breath and that'll settle me down. But again, in that
Hmm.
high level I've been in stress for a long time. A breath doesn't necessarily mean you're good to go. And there is a little bit of trial and error in finding like
Hmm.
the fastest techniques. I actually have an app that should be out soon that will guide people through it in real time, and it'll go with all my tools and techniques actually, just because I know it's hard to think about
Great.
what to do next. We forget. But a
Yeah.
breath or a stretch or a smile, sometimes a posture change, there are all these little body input movements that are not brain things. Brain's not helping in that moment, that I can get my body
Right.
back on board. We use our brain to remind ourselves to do a body thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll also put all of Nicole's contact information underneath the podcast. So I'm sure when your app comes out, that'll be available on your website as well. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
tell people where to get it, and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, and how
Thank
to
you.
contact Nicole. You bet. Um, so a lot of it is we got to start with awareness, right? So just to give you an example, my computer's been on all morning. I actually had done an earlier podcast, and then 3 minutes before we were to meet, my internet goes out, and I had an update this morning. It's no longer working, and so I'm ready. I'm like, "Are you serious?" It's like 3 minutes to That's meeting and everything's gone. It's been on for 4 hours. And so I did have a little conversation with myself. Now, I mean, I do work on this stuff, but sometimes we get tired of the things we, we work on with other people.
Yes. Yes.
So I just had a little conversation and said, okay, we can drop F-bombs or we can just reboot we go to restart the computer. It worked out. But boy, that spark was there to start throwing a tantrum and start getting upset. So,
And
um,
well, I want to add to that. That's actually, in my mind, a beautiful moment to get rid of an emotion, because anyone who gets the book or the app or whatever, it has like a jar of marbles on it. And the reason it has that, because people are like,
uh-huh,
that's a weird thing. And I'm like, I know that's a weird thing. It talks about it in the book. But the point of the jar of marbles, the reason why
right.
most people are so overwhelmed in this moment is because every time we feel an emotion or we can't take an action or finish a stress response, our body is collecting that data. And the way I explain it is that's a piece
Sure.
that's a marble in the jar. And then we have another hard day and we had a lot of marbles in the jar and we didn't have time to take them out. Or we have, the computer doesn't work in that moment and now more marbles go into the jar. So part of the down regulating or the calming
Hmm.
is, the way I see it, it's just all day we're putting marbles in, taking marbles out, putting marbles in, taking marbles out, because that's life, right? Life isn't perfect.
Hmm.
It would be boring if it was. And so the goal is, how do I pull out a bunch of the old marbles that have been there since I was 2, or since Johnny called me a goo-goo head on the playground and I
Yeah.
wanted to be tough instead of cry. Well, that was a marble, right? Or every time we
Yeah.
needed to move in class and we couldn't move or defend ourselves or, whatever, overcome it, those were marbles. And then with our
Hmm.
kids or in public or all of those. So having a full jar of marbles these days, especially, just put COVID in there. Fill half a jar with COVID that no one's processed, all the
Yeah.
fear, attention, and uncertainty. And now you've got
Yeah.
this full marble jar. So the goal is, how do I get as many marbles out as fast as possible? Because we
Hmm.
don't want the jar to overfill. That's the crying over spilled milk. And the reason why I put the marble jar, because I said, what happens when someone goes crazy or they throw a tantrum about the milk? I'm like, well, they lost their marbles. And the way I see it is that these final marbles got thrown on top of something extra you have to deal with, and now they're rolling all over the ground, and you're
Right.
scrambling to grab them. And it is as benign as that too. They're
Hmm.
just marbles. It's just
Yeah.
so our computer doesn't turn on and we're angry. Great. I'm going to pull some marbles out by feeling the anger and still taking action by fixing the problem. Now I have left some marbles, then I can add like a down regulator. I can take a couple breaths, more marbles out. Now by the time we start, we're good to go. And that's really the ease for which I want people to see how we can manipulate, like, it's probably not the best word, but manage, I guess, our own emotions and tension and stress is just by being in the moment and utilizing it for our highest good.
As you were mentioning that, I was kind of processing it. And I was thinking, when I made the choice not to drop F-bombs and pound my fists on the table, I said, I can't bring this energy to Nicole once we log in. And what I kind of processed is, had I done that, and we still would have met, I would have been professional, done, and not to I was mad, but I can really sense that energy isn't there.
That's
And if I had done that, we still would have got on and I was go, hey, how's it going? I think it would be in there. I kind of sense that isn't there versus it would be.
And that's the key, is to just know. So that's why asking ourselves why. My next book is Curiosity is Control. Because the first book is like, just please calm your body down. Because if you can't get this, you can't really get to the next step. And the next step is Curiosity is Control. If I start getting really curious about why I do what I do, why I feel in the moment, not backtracking decades of my life. If I just get curious about my why in the moment, was the last minute or two, that self-awareness is huge, because sometimes we don't need to throw tantrums. Sometimes we just need to feel. Most of the time, it's not about the tantrum. It's just acknowledging I'm really angry right now, and I can allow my body to feel it and just do what it kind of wants to do, because your body thinks it's fighting a bear. It's always a bear or a lion. It's not a computer. It's not a family member. It's not the dog. It's always a bear or a lion. And so then the body just wants you to acknowledge, not you, but in general, us, to acknowledge that it's trying to communicate with us. A huge amount of this work is just creating an actual intentional relationship with our physical self that's been trying to just keep us alive for a really long time. And it's got a lot of data that its approach to it has been very successful, because we're still alive at the cost of a lot of things. So it's just like, is it a bear? And is the bear gone? Is it a bear? Well, it's really, there's a bear or there's no bear. That's really, it's very binary.
Yeah. And, I run in throughout my career in mental health, there's anxiety about getting rid of the anxiety. There's something that's safe about that. I'm always in this discombobulated state if I'm not. I don't know that I could be in danger then, because I'm not keeping myself safe.
Right. And that's the body that has decided that it's better to be anxious, safer to be anxious, safer to be more hypervigilant, safer to be in threat detection mode than not. And that is, again, the purpose of my book and the app, is to just gently retrain the body that it's actually better, more efficient, more effective, healthier to be calm. The body works better that way, for sure. Health, telomeres, all the science into that space. And it's just retraining, creating new synaptic pathways about it. And there's a trust space in that relationship that I'm talking about. Like, can my conscious mind have a discussion with my subconscious or my physical body, or however we want to label it, and say, hey, I hear you, which is, again, that somatic sensing. Thank you for telling me we're angry. You clearly feel like a boundary has been passed. I'm now aware of what's happening, and I'm going to try to deal with it this way. Well, that's actually helping rewire the body to know that it's safe, that you'll take action, and that you'll honor this. Yes, exactly. So it's developing a relationship with our physical self, and frankly, in honoring the body. Thank you. I appreciate it. I honestly tell my clients, you feel stressed all of a sudden, say, thank you for all of this important data, which is all it really is. It's just data. thank you for this data. I'm going to take a breath and try to calm down for a minute. I'm going to acknowledge my feelings and emotions, etc., and sensations. And then I'm going to say, okay, what's real about this situation? Is there a bear? And if there isn't, and we can't, believe me, my psychologist actually told me, so I don't want you to be jealous, so I tell you this, that I was an Olympian of anxiety. I had generalized anxiety disorder, which is just a label, and that I had an Olympian. I have a trophy. It's at home.
Gold medal in anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. In all anxiety races or whatever, I was the fastest, and all it ends up being is a body habit. And I can retrain the body to be calm. And I did. And that is, I can see when I get a little worked up if too many things are going on, or I haven't slept well, or haven't eaten well. There's all of those other dynamics that play into it. And that's the key piece too, is recognizing the more we take care of the physical body so it knows it's safe. There are people out there implementing programs where some of it's just I walk on the ground in a specific way so that the information from the nerves on my feet tell my nervous system that I'm stable and safe, and now I have less anxiety. So it is body, and we have failed in some way, or just not done the work to teach people or even really understand, frankly, until more recently, how the body, what the body's role is aside from like consuming food and exercise.
And that's a part of health that's not discussed much. For example, I can think of pretty much every time I go to the doctor, they don't ask you anything about what your role is. Are you dealing with stress? Are you I mean, they might give you a GAD-7 test if the person taking your blood pressure goes, hey, are you feeling sad? Hope so, whatever. I even worked with 2 dietitians at one time in my life. Were telling me all the things I should or shouldn't be doing diet-wise, but none of them asked me, like, what's your world? They didn't ask me if I was traveling and eating in restaurants throughout the week. They didn't. I mean, it's amazing to me how and maybe I'm getting on a soapbox here, but how none of that's considered.
No, and I think I know, and I hope, I know and I hope that the future for all of us in mental and physical health and well-being is the combo deal. Because there is, as we were talking about in the beginning, there's not one piece of us that is working independently of the other pieces. And I taught fitness for 15 years. Actually, my original job was first grade teacher, and child development, right? Understanding all of that and how our brains are developed, et cetera. And then looking at physical fitness and the kinetic chain, just like, I could have shoulder pain. It really could actually be from my calf or my foot. And that's that chain of how my body's adapting to it. And that's really how I want us to see mental health, all health. It's all interconnected. And ultimately, my thoughts, there's a lot of terminologies out there. My favorite right now is thoughts become things. So if my thought is actually also conditioning my body to believe a certain thing and act a certain way, then it will eventually, over time, thoughts become things. That is what gave me my Olympian status, actually, because I was so worried about cancer and getting cancer, that I also knew at the time that worrying a lot about getting cancer would actually give me cancer, which also can be true. And so so then I was anxious about being anxious about being anxious.
Well, there is something to be said about self-fulfilling prophecies. There really is. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to get laid off. And then that shows up at work, and you probably are going to be that that gets laid off or whatever.
Yes, we will.
But,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, because the reticular activating system will filter how we interpret what's happening around us, and it will interpret it to to track towards validating a belief we have. So if we think we're going to get fired, our brain, with its capacity to take in a much smaller range of data than we think it does, will start only looking for evidence that I am going to get fired. And so then my behavior will output in response to that. My nervous system will be in response to that. And again, that is why it's a rabbit hole, and self-fulfilling prophecy are nearly identical because of the way that our nervous system works with our subconscious, which works with our mind, and then the output behavior. So
Great point.
that's going back into it. We are powerful. Thoughts become things. So I need my body to be really calm so that I can be in more control of my thoughts so that I can get the things that I want.
But can we hack that the other way?
From the body up?
Yeah, can we hack that? If I'm thinking about something negative and it becomes negative, a lot of people throw the pen manifestation around. But and I think you're saying it, but maybe if we're in a calm body state, it's probably going to be easier to pursue goals.
Yes,
To
because we're
pursue
in
those things.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, because we're in that open-minded, the body, and most importantly in that case, the calm body, open mind. That's how I want, I'm like acting it out, right? Calm body, open mind. Open mind says there's exponential possibility, and it will start looking. So here's the validation piece, back to self-fulfilling prophecy. If I believe I can find the answer, if I believe that this will work out for me, then my brain is tracking for solutions as opposed to tracking to validate problems. So that is going to be the determining factor. The tricky piece is twofold. One, is my body in a stress state or in a calm state? Because calm is open and opportunity, and stress is narrow-minded. I'm only looking for more problems so I can avoid them, right? And then my beliefs, and that's this subconscious back of the brain space that we need to intentionally try to get into and see if we can change some of it. Because logically I could say, yes, I want this and I deserve this. But if I heard my grandma say, unless you struggle and work really hard, you don't deserve anything, that coding is still in there, and it will be looking for validation. So you'll only hang out with people who had to struggle really hard to get where they are. And so now you're back in that. So it seems complex, but it is so, for anyone listening right now, it sounds complex. That's why I called it the human operating system, because it's 4 parts. What is your nervous system saying? What are your beliefs saying? What is your mind saying? And what are your behaviors? If I look at those together multiple times a day, and there's a technique you can use that gets you through it pretty easy.
Are you familiar with the heart math people?
Mm-hmm.
I have a trauma-informed certificate from them, and they have a technique called heart coherence or quick coherence, where you get your HRV or heart rate variability to an even even flow, and then your performance is more optimal.
Yes.
And I know you mentioned flow practice. Is that something kind of like that, or how do you get into flow? A lot of people throw that term around, and I think that's performing optimally maybe here.
Yes. Flow to me, I mean, I feel like when people want to understand the sensation for flow, it's when you've lost track of time because you're just really enjoying what you're doing. You're feeling passionate about it. That's the best way to describe what flow is. My point with my flow practice is that we can get into that way more frequently than we are, I would offer, than the general public is. And that is, so F stands for feel. Focus and feel. I'm going to focus and feel my body. So now I already have my first base point, because my body is my baseline of what comes, everything downstream of that. Focus and feel my body. L, I'm going to listen and learn. I'm going to listen to some of my thoughts. So like I'm a scientist paying attention to all the things. I'm going to listen to my thoughts, and I'm going to learn between the sensations and my thoughts what's going on. And then O stands for orient, because the only thing we need to really be doing ever is pointing ourselves in the right direction to achieve in that moment. And that can just be chilling at a pool and being able to really enjoy it. I'm not saying achievement is this grand success. I mean, being present, enjoying life. So O is orient, and that can go in a couple ways, but most of the time it means I'm going to double check my nervous system's regulated. I'm going to do a 30-second something. You can rub your upper lip and breathe, and that's actually a down regulator, or any of millions of tools that exist, right? And I'm going to orient, and then because as I orient my body, my brain will get quiet for a moment. And then W stands for witness. So I'm just going to witness the moment. What's really going on? And then I'm going to get my what and my why. What do I do next? Just right now, not 10 years from now. What am I going to do right now? And why I'm going to do it. Out of fear or out of opportunity. And that's it. So I just go through it. I go through that 10, 15 times a day, because that keeps me focused. Now I'm back. Now, whatever I'm doing, my body is present in it and feels safe about it. I'm getting my body to feel safe, which means all of my brain kicks on and I get to be fully in it. And that can be even things we don't love to do. But I know my what is because I don't really like doing laundry, but I know my what and why. I'm going to do this laundry. Why? Because I feel so good when all my laundry is put away. And that's enough motivation to get me to break kind of the inertia of doing it. Okay. It feels so good. I mean, really the last piece of that is to emotionally engage in it. I love how I feel when all of my stuff's done. I can turn on some music. My what could be, I'm going to play music, reward myself while I do my laundry. Great. Now, I can feel the energy of it getting done.
Sure.
Now it feels good. Now I'm back in flow. So, or it can be something I'm passionate about or whatever. But you can use flow for an hour and really figure out a problem, or you can use flow in 30 seconds and get yourself back on track.
Yeah, that is really great. We're kind of coming towards the end, but would you want to do a little demonstration with me of how to regulate maybe, or would that be something you want to kind of as a way to show it to people, or?
Yes, and I'm happy to do that. And, you mentioned body scan, and to me, I think that is one of the most effective ways to get regulated. And I would like to put my twist on it, if you're okay if we do it that way.
I got my body scan from Dr. Eric Gentry. He calls it scan wet noodle. Have you ever heard of this stuff?
No, I love that.
Scan. So you scan, and wherever anything's tight, you wet noodle. So you're thinking about that wet noodle. But he has like a lot of little nuggets. That's kind of how I approach it with clients, is to start even with the eyes. But go ahead. I'm gonna work with me, because I do have. I'm certainly need some.
No, that's great. It is my favorite thing to do. And I love that wet noodle idea. And I want to reinforce for everybody, there's a learning curve in trying to find out what works for people. We won't practice it right now, but one of the most consistent that I've found, because sometimes for me, even breath work, that some of the breath work styles that are out there is actually activating from my nervous system, and my body starts freaking out. So, but I think most consistently, humming is one of the best down regulators, especially you're driving your car or whatever, you're going to the bathroom. A lot of people you notice hum already because the body actually already knows what it needs. And when we just start noticing that it's doing the things we need, we can start utilizing them better. So that's part of that curiosity piece. But humming is supposed to be, I hope I'm saying this right. I think it's even they're utilizing it as a technique to help people with heart disease. Because the humming is downregulating the nervous system, and it's allowing the vessels to open in the heart and clear out old plaque and stuff like that. So humming's a big one, and the vocal cords are right next to the vagus nerve in the neck and the throat area. And so humming is huge. If you hummed for 5 minutes twice a day, there's a great amount of research that says that that's really, really effective.
Yeah.
And I like body scans because to me, a body scan, and I go feet up,
Okay.
and I'll just take you through it, and it'll be fun.
Okay. You
Okay.
are, full disclosure, I find you to be a calming presence, so I probably not tightening the things I normally tighten. I hope take that as a compliment, but
Thank you.
but
I
let's
do.
check it out. Let's check it anyway.
Okay. I mean, I'm honestly, if we want to know, my passion in life is to literally help people feel calm and happy, and as part of
Well,
my personality as well as my work. So I am very honored that you would say that. Thank you.
do that.
Okay. So if anyone's listening or watching, or we can close our eyes because we don't want to put too much extra input in to the body, and just notice all 10 toes at the same time. So that's a tricky, fun thing to try to do. Can you notice the sensation of all 10 toes at the exact same time? And if you do notice the sensation, and with no judgment, there's no right or wrong or scientific, or this is not a worry space. I can just be conscious, aware of all 10 toes, even if I can't feel them completely. And just imagine that you can feel a tingling or a warmth in all 10 toes at the exact same time. And it could be completely made up. We're going to imagine this warmth or a tingling in all 10 toes, and then we're going to let that sensation travel up the bottoms of the feet and the tops of the feet. It could be even a cool feeling. Whatever feels good to you, that's the sensation you want to stick with. So you're going to notice it as it travels up the top of the feet and across the bottom of the feet and into the ankles and heels. It's almost as if you're tapping into the energy of the body, all of the synaptic responses and the blood flow and all of the wonderful things happening beneath the skin. So you're going to notice that sensation travel up into the shins and the calves. And as it does, your body is noticing that it feels calmer and more grounded. It feels safe on the ground, knowing that gravity is pulling it down. And protected a little bit and doesn't have to worry about moving in the moment. Everything around us is safe and calm. And we're going to draw that sensation, that warmth, that coolness, that energy flow into the knees. We're going to feel it in the backs of the knees. And then we're going to feel it all the way up the thighs and the sides of the thighs and the inner thigh and the backs, the hamstrings. And we're going to feel that same sensation. You may even picture it as a color moving all the way up into the pelvis and into the glutes, tushy muscles. And we notice it travel all the way up into the belly. We can feel that movement, a gentle flow or gentle acknowledgement of the stomach and the lower back. And we feel the body calm and relaxed throughout all of this. We're inviting the body to release anything that no longer serves it, just an invitation. Body knows how to take care of itself. We're inviting it to release and relax. We move up all the way into the diaphragm below the ribs. Maybe we can feel some of the movement as we breathe. And we can also feel that beautiful healing, calming sensation travel up into the ribs, especially the side ribs under the arms. We can feel it in the front of the ribs. You can feel the lungs expanding and contracting below the ribs. And that nice calming, either light or tingling or warmth or coolness in the chest space, in the heart space. We can feel the body start to relax, start to feel more present. We can move it all the way up into the collarbones. We can feel it in the collarbones and move into the shoulders. We can allow the shoulders to feel that tingling or that warmth or that nurturing, that calm, that peacefulness. We can let the shoulders relax and be present. We feel that movement, that energy, that flow travel down the arms and into the elbows. We can feel it as it moves into the forearms and the wrists and the palms and the fingers and the thumbs. You can feel the palms collecting, kind of that tingling feeling or that warm sensation. They'd kind of almost get heavy with it. And we can allow that sensation, that ease to move into the neck and the throat, relaxing the throat, feeling the breath in the throat. You can just let that tingling and that ease and that release travel into the jaw, letting the jaw slacken and the tongue. Maybe the tongue either lands at the bottom of the mouth or presses against the upper teeth, upper front teeth. The lips soften, the cheeks soften, the ears. We're just feeling the sensations through the body. No judgment, just awareness, just ease and flow and calm, all the way into the eyes and the nose, the eyebrows, the forehead, to the top of the head, the back of the head. And we just allow our body to be present in this moment, inviting it to let go, to be present, to be easeful, to feel safe, to build trust. We take a nice big deep breath into the lower belly from the base of the spine. We fill the belly with air, into the belly, into the diaphragm, into the heart space. And exhale, releasing the shoulders down even more, allowing the chest to release, and just feeling present in the moment. And then we can add that one extra hit of gratitude for just one thing that brings you pure joy and love. You can picture that thing in your mind. You can feel it in your heart. And then you take one last breath. You can take your hands to your heart if that feels good, or keep them at your sides. You can exhale and feel centered and calm and full body connection. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
That's great. Yeah. So here's an interesting thing I noticed. When I was going with the tingling sensation. Once I got to the throat, I actually felt like a little choked up. That was the first point I noticed some emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and not in a bad way. Like, I don't get choked up much. In a way of like a happy choked up,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So that was
Yeah.
really cool.
So that's that. When we start recognizing that our body and our mind and all of it's attached to each other, and we, with our intention, with our focus, start to put
Hmm.
it all together, life just gets easier. Because as we
Hmm.
came back to talking about self-fulfilling prophecy, when my mind and my body are expecting things to work out for me, I'm going to be a lot calmer. When I'm a lot calmer, I'm going to see things going right for me. I'm going to focus on that, and that's going to point me in the right direction, that orientation, in the direction of more things that will go well for me. So manifestation, whether we're spiritual or not, and I like both,
Hmm.
I like the science and the spiritual piece of it, is very
Right.
real. Because we can look at it from an energy thing and get into quantum physics, which I also like to dabble in. But if we take it just from a human body perspective, if I believe
Hmm.
things are going to work out for me, my brain is going to look for the things that are going to work out for me. It just will. And it will guide me towards it without me even being that aware. My body's going to feel confident about it, calm about it, excited,
Right.
satisfied with what's already happening. And it will drive me to keep hanging out with the right people, saying the right words, or the best words for that situation, thinking the
Hmm.
most optimal thoughts. It's not even about constant positivity. It's about alignment.
Yeah.
And body just is aligned. We know, our bodies know, and our subconscious knows, and as a whole, we know what is best for us, what we want to get rid of, what feels good. We just have to tune into this massive, like, satellite dish receiver of life experience and
Right.
utilize it for what will bring us more awesome.
Yeah. And in that state too, I think you're going to be more intuitive. You're going to be able to tap into intuition a lot better. You're not going to tap into it all if you're bipolar freeze, because that's telling you everything's changing. But if you're, yeah, if you have that you're totally booted up, so to speak. You're gonna think also have that extra strength.
Yeah, and it's essentially like relearning how to be in our own body. That's my invitation to people is we never really learned how to be in our own body to begin with. So it's not even relearning. It's maybe just learning 101, body
Yeah,
101. Here's what's happening inside
yeah,
you. If you understand it, you get power over your entire life. And I can't promise, but I want to almost promise that everything changes in our lives when we start understanding why we do what we do, why we think what we think, and the simple, basic human tools we can do to make real changes for ourselves.
right. Well, Nicole, we're kind of coming to the end. I so appreciate all you're sharing this knowledge with us. And again, I'll have all of Nicole's contact information available. Anything we've left out or anything people should know before we go? Maybe they're thinking, I've been this way so long. It's just, then Nicole doesn't know me, and I've been this way so long. I can't change or whatever you want.
That's actually a great point. I love that you brought that up. Well, my answer to that would be neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
There's a very real reason that our bodies are constantly changing and updating, and our cells are all brand new after 7 years, but some of them are brand new after 3 days. I mean, we are not really the same. We are repeated patterns. And if we start noticing the patterns, we can change patterns. It's not about changing who we are. It's about shifting into a more authentic or more feel-good version of ourselves. And it just like anything, it takes practice. It took some level of combination of practice to become the version of ourselves that we are now, with some combination of factors in our youth and our midlife or wherever we are on that journey. And it's just about, we just have to understand our insides to be able to change the outside. Like, and I don't mean physical
Yeah.
anything, I mean like our outside world. And people just don't know. And that's what I would offer. And
Awesome.
it's just practice. Practice makes awesome.
For sure. It's a process. It definitely is a process. It's not
And we
going
can
to
have
happen.
fun with it too. That's the thing.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be, I mean, we call it work because I've yet to be able to coin a better word for it, but it is just practice in any given moment. And if we don't try, we'll never know. I've tried 8 million different things to try to be healthy and happy. And
Yeah.
it all comes back to a little bit of trial and error and relentless optimism that will all work out.
There we go. Great. Well, I feel like we could talk some more. So maybe down the road, anything coming out book wise? I know you mentioned, the app. Anything else coming out or anything people should know about for you?
So my book is already out on Amazon. You'll have the link. The app should be out in the next couple weeks and it pairs well with the book. It's kind of like
Right.
it's in moment support as well as it has actually a lot of the teachings from the book because I was trying to make the book more functional by people having different ways of accessing it. And it's all science and practice and more
Great.
science and more practice. And other than that, right now, I'm just offering workshops on behavior intelligence, which essentially is if I can see my behavior, I can go back down my chain, back to biology and back to my beliefs and back to my brain and figure out what's going on. And now I can change anything. And I'm doing it in corporate workshops for organizations all the way down to, individual groups. So that's what I'm up
Gotcha.
to. Spreading the
Well,
word, trying to shout from mountaintop. We can do this. It's not so hard.
yeah. No, and from my lens and dealing with a lot of people in therapy and whatnot, what Nicole is sharing here is it's the real deal. It's good stuff. So
Thank you.
thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for
And
having me.
reach out to Nicole, and we can all use this. All
Thanks.
right, thanks, Nicole.
Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of Meet Your Mental Helper. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. If you'd like to learn more about our guest, you can find them on our guest directory at meetyourmentalhelper.com. You can find their social media links to follow them and also ways to directly contact them. If you would like to be on the podcast, join our Meet Your Mental Helper network. And we have several memberships that support the work we do that allow unknown experts to be seen. Look forward to hearing from you soon and see you at our next podcast.